welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial video we're going to keep going with our Dalmatian and get the rest of the muzzle and nose drawn in. I'm just going to get straight into it. If you haven't liked or subscribed already, please do. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified when I upload. And yeah, let's just get started. So what I'm actually going to do first is I'm going to get in this dark black spot that's at the bottom lip here. And that's going to give me a nice reference point as to how far we need to bring this, this pink fur out. So we're going to start off with the black spot, which I know seems a bit counterproductive, but we will come back up and finish the rest of the face. So I'm just going to come in, I just need to remove some of that graphite. Just lift some graphite, and then I'm just going to come in with my warm grey one as a base layer. And I'm just following the shape of this spot. So just move the position of the iPad so I can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm just following the shapes. Remember, it's not a truly rounded spot, we're just getting the basic shape mapped in first. This is all with the warm grey one. And we have the spot come in. So it's like two spots because there is a little white gap between the two. I'm then just going to go over the top with the coal grey 4. Now I am going to make sure that I'm following the fur direction. I'm not going to build up the colour here. I just wanted to map these spots in because they are going to be a point of reference for us as we work on the rest of our Dalmatian. I hope you're enjoying this tutorial. I'm absolutely loving drawing this one. I do love drawing white fur, black fur. I have so much fun with them, and I've always wanted to draw Dalmatian, so much fun. Takes me back to my childhood watching 101 Dalmatians. Maybe I might have to stick the Disney film on later. Okay, so we've now got a point of reference for when we start doing this muzzle. Let's get this inner lip mapped in first. So, coming in with my with my warm grey one. Skipping ahead already. As the base layer. Now we will get some of these white hairs coming across this lip, so we want to make sure we've got a nice good base layer so we can use that slice tool. If you're using the tape, you won't need as many layers. I'm then going to come in very lightly with a burnt sienna, and this is going to give us that pinkish colour that's underneath this lip. I think we need to bring that dark line a bit higher up, so I'm just going to grab my dark sepia I feel like that just needs to be a bit higher there. Okay, and then back in with the burnt sienna. And I'm not pressing hard, very light layers as we build up this colour along there. And then I'm going to take my Bistre, and with the Bistre I'm going over the burnt sienna and the rest of that warm grey base layer. And this gives you that yellowish brown tone. And then I'm going to take the Beige Red over the top here. Right, so now that we've got this bit in, I can see I need to darken this bottom lip. So back in with my dark sepia. And I'm just going to darken some of these edges. It's a bit of back and forth again, especially on when you're doing mouth areas. You need to make sure everything looks like it's in shadow. Now we do have a bit of a sharp edge here at the moment. We will make it look like it's fur and that it's meant to be there. I'm going to take the Warm Grey 5 just over here as well. So just darkening up some of this area. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my Caput Mortuum and I'm going to use the Caput Mortuum in this corner of her lips here. Fade that outwards. And then you can grab your Bistre again. Go over the top. And take the burnt sienna. And we're just darkening up these areas once again. Like so. Right, then we have another part of her lip to get in. So back to the Warm Grey 1. And we do have like a little spot coming under this chin here, but just going to mark in this little section. And that's curving up where we've marked this. So we've marked this spot in, so I can see that this part of the bottom lip, this is the bottom lip we're drawing in, is coming to about here on that, oh sorry, excuse me, on that spot. So this is why I marked this spot in, so that I can help find where I need to draw these bottom lips in, and then I can bring this bottom lip in. So sometimes you just need to mark in a little section and then you know where you are. Then taking my burnt sienna again, white layers along the top here. And then I'm going to take my Warm Grey 3 because we have a little spot. So again, I'm measuring where it is, so it's about here. We've got this little dark grey spot underneath. So I'm just using the Warm Grey 3 to just map in that shape. And then I take the burnt sienna again and I'm just going to bring that down here because we know it's darker. And then the beige red again over the top to help with that blend. So you can see now we're really starting to get the shape of this bottom lip is starting to really come through. I'm just going to bring that burnt sienna further down. Okay, and the beige red, especially the bottom here. Right, and then the Warm Grey 3 where we've got that spot. And then back to the burnt sienna. Along here. And then I'm going to take the ivory and I'm going to blend over that burnt sienna. Just lighten that bit up a little bit. And then I'm going to take my, I want a green colour because we've got some green going on, but let's take the, we'll take the earth green yellowish. And I'm very lightly along the bottom, and this just shows that she was stood on some grass and the white fur is reflecting that grass, and then I'll go over that with the ivory. So it's not very in your face, isn't that green? It's just a hint of green and it's just a pop of colour to show what she was stood on. And then just going to bring in that dark sepia just to darken this little spot up a little bit more. And then I can go over that and blend that back in with the ivory. And the Warm Grey 3 just to define these bottom lips. Got these little sections like so. Okay, so that's the bottom lip, and then you could come in now with your slice tool. So I've actually got one of the quite shorter ones. Oops. So this is the precision tool, and you can see just how small that blade is. So I could come in with this now and just scratch away some of the detail, but this might be too small a blade. I do find sometimes it's too small. Yeah, it's too small. So we'll get the other slice tool. But I could come in, just have to be gentle with this one, and add a few little white hairs, a few of the whiskers that we can see. It just adds little details. And then you can go back with the Caput Mortuum in between those slice tool marks. Just add a little bit more extra detail. So it's only little details, not a lot. Right, so now we can focus on getting this pink muzzle sorted, the top lip, and coming back across her face. So back to warm grey one as a base layer, and I'm going to do it across the bottom half of this muzzle first. We'll build our way up, I think. So along to those spots with the warm grey one. And then I'm going to take my cinnamon, and I'm just going to follow the fur direction and build up some of these pinkish tones. Curving those strokes so it looks like the fur is going under that lip. And then just doing short little strokes to indicate that the fur here is short. And I've left a gap because it's quite white there. And then over the top with the Beige Red. And then I'm going to take the gold, and the gold we're going to use as some really fine detail. Just some sharp pencil strokes. Now we have the whisker line that we need to get in, so we're going to do that next. Just coming in with that gold. Okay. So I've got the Venetian Red, and I'm going to take this along the bottom of her lip first, just to darken here. And then where you can see some of these whisker holes, whisker lines, just going to map them in with the Venetian Red. Like so. And then I'm just going to take the burnt sienna, and again I want to just darken this bottom lip, curving my fur direction, always making sure that the fur direction is curving. And then the cinnamon, just to help blend it all back out. And then you can come back over with the white, and you could just blend and burnish that layer. And then we've got a nice bottom half of that lip. So we're going to start darkening up this spot first. So I'm going to take my Walnut Brown and just very lightly come over with the Walnut Brown. Again, this is just to add a little extra colour into here. And then I'm going to take I think the Coal Grey 6 first of all. Okay, I've got the Paynes Grey instead. And I'm just going to take the Paynes Grey over the top. Again, following that fur direction. Now remember, with these spots, we do have some white hairs coming over them, which we do need to add. So don't worry about that just yet. So I'm taking the Paynes Grey over the top of all of this first spot. And then I'm going to very lightly bring some of that Paynes Grey into this whiter spot. And we've got a darker line there. And then if I grab the One Grey 2, and I'm just going to use the One Grey 2 to bring some lines, some fur definition, just some fur direction, fur lines into here. Okay, and then I'm going to take my dark sepia, and where it's a bit darker, just darkening it up with the dark sepia. And then you could come over that with the One Grey 5. And that'll just add another bit of darkness, depth to this spot. Especially when we start bringing some of these white furs into this spot. And blend that outwards. Remember, it's not a sharp edge. We've got those little hairs coming through that spot. And then I'm going to take the One Grey 1 again, and we're going to do the next sort of row. So it's like rows of words. Rows of whiskers is basically what we're kind of adding in. So that's the One Grey 1. And again, I'm coming in with a light flesh. Now, it doesn't, this all part of this, I'll start again. All of this isn't pink. So it's actually coming about halfway now with this pink. So I'm going to take the light flesh first and bring the light flesh in here. Words are hard today. I've had a 2-day migraine, so still a bit of brain fog, I'm afraid. And then go back to the cinnamon and details. So like little bits of those whisker lines, and then a few hairs. And then I'll take the gold and really use that gold to build up that detail in that pink. And then I'm going to take my One Grey 2 and build up the hair detail over the top of this base layer. Again, following fur direction. Always, always following fur direction. And then I'm going to burnish all of that with the white pencil. So when I say burnish, you're going to press hard with that white pencil over that warm grey. Really push that pigment into the paper. Then I'm taking my Paynes Grey and I'm just going to build some of that Paynes Grey into there. And then I'm going to grab my Caput Mortuum and just follow these little whisker lines again all along here. And then you can blend them out with the One Grey 2. So it doesn't take long at all to build this up. I'm just going to take the cinnamon and just blend that pink outwards a little bit better. So yeah, so it's not taking, oh, we've moved. Sorry guys. I don't know how that happened. Sorry. Hopefully you saw all of that. I'm really hoping so. But it's just building up One Grey 1 and One Grey 2 in the fur direction. Caput Mortuum for the whisker lines, and then just blending this all together. Don't know why that was moving. Really, really strange. I'm going to have to keep my eye on that. I tell you, one of these days we will have a tutorial where nothing goes wrong. And then I'm going to take the warm grey one, and I'm going to cover all of this section now with the warm grey one as my base layer. Oh, I hope you can follow that part of the tutorial. Oh, I'm so annoyed with myself not for noticing. I am hoping in the next couple of weeks to upgrade the filming situation, just to make it easier for you guys. So hopefully it'll stop issues like that. Just got a little mark there. Right, so I've got the warm grey 1 base layer down there now. And I'm just going to go over the top of that with the warm grey 2 along the bottom of this whisker line. Again, following that fur direction, just building up this little whisker line with the warm grey 2. Okay, now we do have a spot. So we've got, this is one of the whisker spots, so we've got a spot about here. Just a very, very small one, so I'm just mapping in a little line and a few little stray hairs. And then I'm going to take my Paynes Grey, just go over the top of that warm grey 2 mark. Now you could go straight in with the Paynes Grey to map that in. Sometimes I just feel like map it in with a lighter colour first, and then you can go over with the darker colours. And then I'm going to bring that warm grey 2 along here, and it's going to be quite dark here as well. So you can see now we've mapped in another whisker line, and that's all we're doing, we're just mapping in these whisker lines. And I'm just going to bring that warm grey 2, following the fur direction on this part of the nose. And again on this little section as well. And then I'm going to take the Beige Red and just blend that pink into that warm grey. And then you're going to take your gold again, and the gold is just going to add to some little definition, especially in this pink area of the muzzle. And now we do have some other whisker lines to add, so I'm going to take my Venetian Red again, and we've got one sort of marked in there, one there. Again, they don't need to be 100% accurate, just close enough. I'm just going to take the coal grey 1 and bring that in here as well. Walk back to the warm grey 2 for a bit of definition. And then if you get your gold and you want a few more hairs, just use your gold to map in a few little extra details. And then you can go over the top of all of that with your white and just burnish that into the paper. So you can see now we've got that little muzzle really nicely built up. So I'm now just taking my dark sepia and I'm just bringing in some of these darker first strokes where we've got this spot and we've got those little stray black hairs. So I'm just going to map some of them in with the dark sepia, making sure once again following fur direction. Always, always, always following that fur direction. And that one, got the little one here. And some of that fur coming down there. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm actually just going to take the Cold Grey 3 and I'm just going to build up a little bit of colour here. Oh, that's better. Just a little bit of extra tonal value along the bottom edge of this muzzle. Okay, yeah, that looks better. Right, so we have the nose coming in. At this point you could also come in and add some of those whiskers. So like here we're going to have a whisker coming down. But I'm going to map this one in. But I kind of want to do my whiskers at the end, and I will show you how I'm going to do the whiskers on this piece. Okay, let's just keep going now. So I'm just going to add another base layer of the warm grey one, sort of coming up her face now, and we're going to really start building up the structure of her face. Now, because the fur on the Dalmatians is really short and fine, you're really going to be able to see the bone structure underneath the fur. So it's going to be really important that we really focus on our tonal values, especially the shadows. So the white fur is actually going to end up looking fairly dark, but it'll all balance out once we've got some of these white spots in as well. So I've just done a layer of the warm grey one. And I'm just going to make sure that this warm grey one base layer is smooth. Just smoothing it out in some of these areas. Down here. A little bit around that spot so that we can build that spot up when we get to it. Okay. So I'm just taking the dark sepia again, and I'm just going to highlight some of these darker fur strokes ever so lightly, and then I'm going to take my warm grey 2, and we have a darker bit here, so we've got a bit where the muzzle is coming over a bit of a bone structure. We need to be really aware of that as we start building up this area. So I've made sure that my warm grey 2 is really sharp, and I'm just going to start coming out from this corner of the spot with the warm grey 2 and following that fur direction downwards here. Curving those pencil strokes ever so slightly, and this area is going to be the warm grey 2, and it's just going to indicate that change in the facial structure, and we're going to make sure that we are getting that in our drawing. And this is all just done with the warm grey 2, medium pressure. I'm pressing a little bit harder here. I'm going to just bring that in here as well. Now I've made sure that the warm grey 2 is sharp so that I can get those nice details in the face. And then as I come to the edge where this is lighter, so where it's going into that warm grey 1, just going to reduce the pressure, blend it out, just taper those edges, and then you can come back over with the warm grey 1 and just really smooth out that fur. Again, the warm grey 2 coming down from this spot. So this is all now just about building up some of this detail that you can see within the face and some of that bone structure. And by using the warm grey 2, we're just really starting to build up some of the contours within the face. I'm going to take the cold grey 2, and with the cold grey 2 I'm just going to do that detailing along this part of the face now. So a really sharp pencil, medium pressure. We don't want these to be too dark, so I'm not going in pressing really hard, but just enough to bring in some little hair details along the face. And then I can bring that down over this warm grey 2 area, and this will just blend that colder area in with this warmer area as well. And you can bring some of that cold grey 2 in over the top here. Okay, and I'm just going back to my warm grey 2 and I'm just going to blend that bit out again. So I'm always making sure that it looks really smooth and blended. Don't want any harsh lines, especially when we're doing a breed with such short fur on the face. And I'm just going to bring that warm grey 2 down here as well. Now we've got some of these pink whisker spots left, so I'm just going to take the Venetian Red and I'm just going to map them in very lightly around here. And this is kind of giving you that final whisker points and points of reference for this part of her face. You can see it's just kind of like a C shape. Just get them mapped in, and then I'm going to take my warm grey 2 and just bring in some detail. And I can see also we've got a few little darker spots here, so we're going to get them mapped in as well. These are just little extra details that I can see. You don't have to include them. If you don't include them, it's not going to ruin the drawing. Just taking the coal grey 2 as well. But because she's not the largest drawing of a Dalmatian head, because it's quite small, I'm going to try and focus on quite a few little bits of detail within this drawing. So I'm going to take my coal grey 4 and I'm just going to bring some little extra details with the coal grey 4, and then I'll blend over the top of that with the warm grey 1. I'm also just going to come back with a cinnamon and just draw in a few little pinkish lines. Not many. I don't want this area to be overly pink in tone. I just want a few little extra pinkish tones. And I'm just going to bring that beige red further out a bit just to help with that blend. It's a bit of a harsher line there now, so I'm just going to blend that. Oh, okay, right, let's keep going. Back to the warm grey 1. Just going to bring this base layer out here a little bit. Then the warm grey 2. Just darkening where it needs to be darker there. So you can see now we're getting a bit of a contour within the face. And then the warm grey, coal grey 1. Again, just to help with this blending. It's all about the blending. Especially on this dog. Right, let's get this other spot drawn in. So I'm going to take the Nougat this time. I don't want this one to be as dark a brown. So we're going to take the Nougat. You could use your Walnut Brown again if you wanted. And then I'm going to take the coal grey 4. Followed by the Paynes Grey again. Following that fur direction all the time. Now we have a lot of little black hairs going on. Black and white hairs interchanged. So to do that, we're going to do some of the slice tool work, but we're going to get some dark tones in a minute. I'm just going to take the dark sepia and I'm going to darken up both little spots along here. Just want to darken that one up a bit more. Now that I'm adding more of the colours in, I can see that that spot just isn't quite dark enough. Especially down that lip. And then we can darken this one up. Okay, and then I'm going to take the coal grey 3 and I'm just going to bring in some little lines. Now I'm not worried about these being accurate, but just some little lines in here. And then it gets quite warmish in tone, so I'm going to the warm grey 2 again. And I'm just going to bring that warm grey 2 up here. Okay, so we're starting to really build up all these tonal values really nicely now. I'm just going to take my slice tool, just going to bring in, not happy with that. So this is just going to help lighten this blend up here that I'm not quite happy with. It is going to get covered up by whiskers in the end, but sometimes I'm just not happy. So like when I bring in that whisker, okay, and then you can bring in some of these white furs. So I'm just going to use it across some of this dark. I'm not going to bring in loads, just enough to show that there's white hairs. Over that spot. So I'm using the slice tool just to take away some pigment. And then I will come in with, I need to sharpen my white, but sharp white pencil. Just going to bring in some little white lines. Just to show that it's whiskers. Little white hairs over the top. And then you could also come back in with like your Paynes Grey and just darken around them. And you'll soon get that little effect that we're looking for. Right, we're going to keep going with the bottom of her mouth. So we have, I'm trying to work out if we do the lip behind first. No, let's get this dark spot in first. So I'm actually going to come in here with a coal grey one. Where's my pretty eraser? Just going to lift a little bit of that graphite. So I'm coming in here with the coal grey one. Along the bottom here, we've got a spot. So I'm just using this as a base layer where that spot is. And then along the bottom here where we've got her lip, which again is going to be dark. Just going to map it in very lightly. The coal grey one, and then I'm just going to take the warm grey. Actually, do we want the warm grey or do we want to stick with the coal grey? No, we'll keep the warm grey. It'll give us a nice differentiation between the two areas. Warm grey one as the base layer. Okay, so we're going to get the bottom half of this done now. So I'm going to go back to the walnut brown and I'm just going to place where I can see that darker spot. I'm just going to bring this walnut brown in. And along here. So that's the walnut brown where those spots are. And then I'm going to take the warm grey 5 and I'm just going to make sure I fill in that hair direction, and I'm just going to bring in this spot now. Remember, they're not perfectly round, not got harsh edges, we've got some little hairs coming off and they're kind of blending into that little fur. So it's just starting to build up the definition of these spots. I'm going to be seeing spots by the end of this drawing. It's not the spottiest Dalmatian, there's definitely spottier ones, but I liked the distribution of the spots on this dog compared to one that was overly spotty. Then the dark sepia. I thought this was, this dog in particular had a nice white fur to black fur ratio. Make it really nice to draw. And then I'm just going to bring that dark, warm grey one, sorry, in over here again. She does have a bit of pink in there, so I'm going to take the cinnamon, bring that down here, along the edge of this lip. Bit of the cinnamon, very light pressure, and then the beige red. Followed by the warm grey one again, just over the top. And then the Paynes Grey, bringing some of those little fine black hairs again. And you can darken up here as well. So that's one spot in, so we'll just keep going. This area is quite dark, so I'm going to go in with a dark sepia. And this bit is quite a sharper edge, so this is the actual lip that we're seeing. This isn't a spot, this is the lip, which is black because she's got black spots, so we know she's got black pigment. So we're just going to darken. So I'm using quite harsh pressure there, really darken that little bit of the lip. And then I'm going to get my warm grey 2, just for that bit of white fur that's under here. Along there, and then back to the Paynes Grey. This bit is actually a little bit of a spot on the edge of a lip. I'm hoping it's not too echoey for the sound. It sounds really echoey today in here. I'm not quite sure why. Whether it's just my mind playing tricks on me. And then the cold grey 3. I'm actually going to go over the top of that warm grey 1 base layer here with the cold grey 1. And then I'm going to use what we're going to use, warm grey 3, I think. Very light pressure though, just to build in some little hair details. So again, following fur direction, just making sure that I'm getting that fur mapped in the correct direction. And then I'm just going to take that Paynes Grey again and just blend that white fur. Okay, oh look at her, we're getting a right little face appearing. Right, we now have the bottom lip behind her mouth, so back to the warm grey 1, and again I'm just going to lift ever so slightly. So I'm just following the shape, so I've got a little shape there, and I'm going to just grab the Bistre. It's only a very slight, small, almost rectangular shape here. And then from there you've got that lip that's falling behind her face. So I'm going to use the warm grey 1. And then I'm going to take the Bistre very lightly along this warm grey 1. And then over the top of that with the Beige Red. And then back over with the warm grey 1. And then I'm just going to take my dark sepia and just make sure that the edge of this lip is over the top. So a few little dark hairs, and then this part where the lip is quite straight. So making sure we're getting those shapes drawn in. And then the burnt sepia along. Very light pressure just to darken this up to show that it is behind. And it is behind there. And then we have the bottom of the lip, so again, just going to lift some of the graphite. Warm grey 1. The Bistre again, very lightly. And I'm still following fur direction. It's not as in focus here, it is slightly out of focus, but I'm still getting that fur direction in. The Beige Red. And then back over the top of that, this time with the cold grey one for this section. And then it is darker in this corner of her mouth. So I'm going to take the Caput Mortuum underneath here. And just bring in some darker tones, especially down here. And then I'm going to grab my dark sepia again. Just really darken that lip up. Caput Mortuum. And then the warm grey one. And the burnt sienna. Back to the Bistre, just add that yellowish tone back in. Very lightly, not pressing down hard at all. It's all been very, very lightly. Okay, let's get some more of this face drawn in. So I'm going back to the warm grey one. And I'm just going to apply the base layer all the way up until that other dark spot. So I'm not going to get this dark spot in just yet. And with this base layer, I am following the fur direction. So I'm just doing it very slowly to build up the fur. Nice sharp pencil to do this area as well. Now it might be once we've got this area in that we come back in and add a few little details. But I'm quite happy with how she's looking at the moment. We're really starting to get that white on white paper look, which I know is something a lot of people struggle with. I'm actually looking at doing a full white dog tutorial. So we will do white fur on white paper, pure white dog, or cat, maybe a cat if I can find a nice photo. Because I think some people want to do something different to dogs all the time. But yeah, I will find something and we will have a go. And I'm just going to bring this warm grey one in here as well. Okay, so we've got that base layer down and now we need to build on top of our base layer. First of all, I'm just going to bring in the cold grey one, especially along here. Again, following fur direction. And I'm just going to bring in some cold grey one. And even though we're not applying this really as a base layer, can you see how we're already starting to build up a little contour in the face? which is why we really need to follow this fur direction. Really just starting to build up a really nice looking dog. So that's the coal grey one. I'm very, very lightly, I can see a few pinkish tones, so I'm very lightly, and I mean lightly, just going to bring in the beige red. And this is so light, it's just touching the paper. Very, very subtle. And then we're going to take the warm grey 2, and the warm grey 2 is going to build up some of this fur. So fur direction, fur details. Again, following fur direction. Changing quite a lot, there's a lot of nice smooth curves going on. And you can go over areas that you've already drawn on with the cold grey warm grey 2. I'm doing very, very short lines as well, just to really build up the shape. Really short lines. You see now how we're just really starting to build up some really nice contours in this face. And this is all just by using the warm greys. And it's still looking like white fur. And then I'm just going to go over with the white, just to help burnish. So burnishing is quite useful in this piece, because it's quite a light white. The whites in this piece aren't as dark as they could be. I'm finding that burnishing is just going to help keep them looking really soft. So yeah, we've got a really soft piece going on here. Let's get this other spot in. So warm grey 1. Actually no, I'm going to use the cold grey 1 as the base layer. And I'm just doing this in the general shape that this spot is. And I'm just going to blend some of that outwards into that white area. This is the good thing, we're using this as a base layer. We can just get a nice blend between all the different areas. And then I'm going to take the walnut brown again, very lightly, just to add a little bit of depth. You could also use the dark indigo for these spots if you wanted your Dalmatian to have more of a cool tone. Mine's quite a warm toned Dalmatian. We're using a lot of the warm greys, so that's why I'm using walnut brown. But if you wanted to use the dark indigo and more of the cold greys, you could have a cooler toned Dalmatian. And then I'm going to go over all of that with the Paynes Grey. And now I'm going to start bringing in as well some of those little details. Again, I'm always looking back at my reference photo, what directions that fur going in, making sure that I'm getting that correct. And I've not pressed too hard, it's quite a light Paynes Grey. Not pressed hard at all here. And then I'm going to bring in the warm grey 5. Pressing a little harder now, I'm going to start darkening up this spot. It's quite a dark spot, so I think we may end up coming in with black, but the dark sepia might be okay. So the dark sepia, again, decent amount of pressure. Some little loose hairs going on there. Just really darkening this up. And a few dark hairs, right, and then I'm going to get the warm grey one, again following fur direction. I don't know why I've got a few little marks there. Okay. I do think I might come in with maybe the copper, probably the next part of the tutorial, and just really define some of the fur on the face. I think that's what's lacking. Just do a bit around that spot as well. And then the warm grey 2. And the cold grey, oh, that's too dark, cold grey 2. Back to the warm grey 2. So I'm just swapping between the two shades and doing these little contours in the face that we can see. And the warm grey 2 coming out of this darker spot as well. Again, following fur direction. Always following that fur direction. Okay, I need a little bit more pink in here. Now that I'm building this up, so beige red. It's almost like it's underneath the fur, the skin that we can see. So I'm going to do that beige red, and then I'm going to go over the top of that with a warm grey 2 again. Just to knock it back a little bit. And then the Paynes Grey, I'm just going to and a few little hairs coming from that spot. So we still need to do quite a little bit of detailing. And a lot of work on the contours on this face, but we have nicely got her nose and muzzle area done. Warm grey 1, and I'm really happy with where she is right now. I think we're going to leave her here. Don't want to do too much on her because it's not the easiest areas to do. I know a lot of people struggle with the noses and the lips, so we'll leave her here, and then in the next part we will finish her head, and yeah, get her closer to being finished. So let me zoom out so you can see where we are. So here she is so far. We've really started building up the spots on her face. I do think we need to get a little bit more fur detail going on. So the next part, whilst we are finishing like the top of this sort of side of her head, we'll start really building up some definition within the fur. We may end up having to use maybe the warm grey 3 or the gold copper to help get those tonal values in. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this part of the tutorial. Any questions, let me know down below, and I will see you all in the next part. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. See you all soon. Bye everybody.